Hello, and welcome to the Canyons Are Calling podcast. I'm Charles Jocelyn, your host for the show. Happy New Year! I hope you all have some awesome canyon plans coming up for 2022. One thing that I have coming up is the podcast birthday party. It's going to be in February in North Wash, February 11th through the 13th. If you would like to join us, I'm going to have some information and create an event page on Facebook. So join us on our Facebook group page, The Canyons Are Calling. I'll have a link to that in the show notes. You can also email or private message me, and I can get you more information on that. The email is thecanyonsarecalling@gmail.com. Or private message me on Facebook. It's Shirls Rocks Jocelyn on Facebook. Also, some other exciting news. I am going to be making some dog pull toys out of scraps of rope that we have at Emily Canyon Gear. And so those are only going to be available on the Canyons Are Calling website. They're going to be about $5, $5 to $10 plus shipping. My dog loves them. She's a pit bull and she chews on almost everything, but the ropes are pretty sturdy, so she has a hard time like chewing through those and destroying them rather quickly. And she also knows the difference between chewing on her toys and chewing on my ropes. Like, I've had questions with people thinking that she's going to damage my ropes just because it's a rope or whatever. But she really knows the difference. So as long as you, keep her toys away from your gear, it'll be pretty safe. So if you're interested in dog toys, I have those available on the website soon. I also have the beer glasses and stickers. One thing I did take off of the website is the Teespring merchandise. I was really disappointed with the quality of the merchandise. Luckily, I only had a couple of people that ordered hoodies and t-shirts. So if you did order those and I have not gotten a hold of you, please reach out to me. Really sorry about the quality of those. I would rather not make money than to have really shitty quality. So, I mean, I had my one hoodie for like maybe 2 months and the logo's already falling off. Like, it's super shitty. So I'm not going to sell shitty quality or shitty t-shirts to you guys just to make a couple bucks. I'd rather not make money on this podcast. So with that being said, if you feel like my time is worth it and you would like to make a donation, I have Patreon available from now until the 1st of March. If you join my Patreon, you're going to be able to join in on our monthly canyon calls. We had our first one on the 5th of January, and it was really fun. We just sat for an hour. There was about 4 or 5 of us, sat and chatted our favorite canyons and YouTube videos and things like that. It was really neat to get to know my Patreon supporters as well as, some more canyons around the world. So if you'd like to be a part of that, any of the tiers will be available for the canyon calls. They're going to be the first Wednesday of every month at 6:30 Mountain Standard Time. And this is just one benefit that I can offer to the people that are supporting the show. After March 1st, it'll go back to the Class C tier level people that are supporting. But everybody else that has joined before will be grandfathered in. So you'll be able to join the calls whenever you want, as long as we do them. One other thing that I want to talk about before I get into the show is in the Pacific Northwest interview, I mentioned the guidebook by Kevin Clark. And I need to go back and talk a little bit more about that because it's actually more than a guidebook. Like, it doesn't really give you trail information and beta on where trails are. It's more of a technical canyoning resource. And the more I looked at it, the more information I thought was amazing that's in there. And so I really think it's a great book. Even if you're not in the Pacific Northwest, it gives you rescue information. It gives you anchor building information. It gives you all sorts of information canyoneering. So I feel like it's a valuable resource for canyoning everywhere, not just the Pacific Northwest, but specifically for the Pacific Northwest. He does have some information about that too, and Class C canyoning in general. So if you would like to pick up that book, I know we have it on the Canyoneering USA website. And then in that other when I mentioned the places in the Pacific Northwest that you can get them. I'll look that up and have it in the outro. Sorry, I don't have it ready right now. Anyway, let's get on with the show. I have today with us Raquel Diaz and Matt Weyen, who were in an epic situation during a Heaps Canyon expedition. And they are here today to talk about that. So who are they? So Raquel grew up in LA and fell in love with the outdoors in her Girl Scout troop. She first visited Zion National Park on an expedition with her high school and fell in love with specifically canyoneering, where she just had to learn more information about canyoneering and got into that aspect of it. She later moved to Boise, where she now lives with her 2 kids, cat, and free-range chickens. She works in software sales and is also a doula, where she coaches expecting families through childbirth, which is super amazing. I have had personally witnessed the birth of both of my, or 2 of my grandsons from my daughter at my house, and that was incredible. Now she's expecting the 3rd one, which will be born at their house instead of mine. But it's super exciting to watch with doulas and midwives instead of the typical doctor way that I had my kids. I think that's really, really awesome. So good for Raquel for doing that. Anywho, when she's not doing all those things, she spends as much time outdoors as possible, and she enjoys climbing, traveling, live music, cooking for people, reading, daily meditation, and time with friends and family. So Matt grew up in northern Idaho. His dad showed him an outdoorsy way of life from the time he was a kid. He was into skiing, backpacking, biking, and all sorts of outdoor ways of life. For 20 years, he raced road bikes nationally. After that very focused time frame, he got back into outdoor adventures and came down to southern Utah. The landscape boggled his mind, and he had to get into more of those adventures. When he's not on a new adventure, you'll find him behind the screen, desk jockeying it up with the best of them, wishing he was out in nature. You might even find him socializing in the concrete jungle of Boise. Here's our conversation with Raquel and Matt. All right, so I am here with Matt. Say your last name. Weyen. I was going to say Weyen again. And Raquel Diaz. And we are here today to talk about a story that happened in Heaps Canyon. But first of all, I would like to have you guys introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about how you got into the outdoors in canyoneering.
I started as far back as I can know, because my dad used to drag me out into everything as far back as I have memory. By the time I was like 5 years old, I was wearing out shoes in the mountains, and my mom would get mad at my dad because I'd wear out a pair in one day. And I just kind of kept going with dad everywhere. And then eventually, he'd shown me all sorts of various things, and I wanted to see more. And I finally saw like Utah and saw these canyons, and it just blew my mind. It was only non-technical stuff at first, and I knew immediately that I needed to see more. And I knew that I needed to talk to all my climbing friends. I was like, teach me ropes, teach me anchors. I want to go places. I'll do the route finding and plan the trips and show us places that are amazing, but you guys tie the knots and stuff.
Yeah, and I've been outdoorsy since I was a little kid. My family's not very outdoorsy. My parents were not. I think I went camping once with the Girl Scouts, and I was like hooked and wanted to like just hike and camp all the time, and got more opportunity to do that in high school. I went to a high school where I learned how to climb through their outdoor program, and we went all over the western U.S. and camping and climbing, and did some rappelling. And I've been going to the Zion area since I was a teenager, and go back as much as I can, at least every few years. Lately it's been more often. Did some canyoneering, got a taste of it, just kind of like would hire guides whenever I could possibly manage it and make people go with me. And then since Matt and I have met, like I've gone with him more probably since we know each other, like this year especially, and I just have a love for that landscape and pretty much anything outdoors, but definitely canyons.
Very cool. So how long have you guys been canyoneering?
I did my first non-technical stuff in 2011, technical in 2012,
Okay.
and it just kind of amplified since then.
And I've done like non-technical stuff, scrambling and stuff like that in canyons like for years, but probably, a few times over, maybe 5, 7, 8 years ago throughout the years. But then just more so within the past probably like year.
Gotcha. Nice. Matt, I definitely recognize your name from a customer at Canyoneering USA.
Oh yeah,
Sent you a lot of gear over the years.
And many other things, rappel devices, all the good stuff.
Yep, awesome. Well, very cool. Okay, so let's just jump into the story about Heaps. Was it last month that it happened?
Yes, about a month ago, almost a month to the date. Yeah.
Okay, so we're recording this
mid-November. So it's been just over 4 weeks. Yeah.
Nice. So mid-October, beautiful time to do a Zion Canyon.
Oh my goodness, yes. All the fall colors are amazing.
It's probably my favorite time of year to go to that area.
Yeah.
For sure.
Day one was spectacular. The views over Phantom Valley, I don't think can be beat by many places.
Agreed. Yeah.
That was day one.
An uneventful day one. A beautiful day one. Yeah. And I think, we had started this trip, I think Matt had put together, Matt's a really good organizer, put together lots of trips. And originally we had a group of 6 that were going to go. And due to various circumstances, we ended up with 3. So we had more gear to distribute amongst fewer people, and just the packs were heavier. But so the hike in that first day was, we had a lot more gear, and it was a nice hike that day.
Yeah. Okay, so you're hiking to Phantom Valley.
We had Michelle Niles on the trip as well. Her and I have canyoneered together a lot, and she's highly experienced. You see her name around everywhere, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Trying to get her on about Rope Wiki.
I hope you can get her.
Yeah.
She's very knowledgeable.
Hopefully she'll do that.
Very capable as well.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day, beautiful weather, and we hiked all the way, and we rappelled in, and we camped at a really pretty spot near some water, and it was almost full moon, and it was just a nice night, not too cold. Well, a little bit cold, but not bad. And then
it was a full canyon too. It's full of water. I've never seen it like this. I don't think many people have. It's not many people get to go right after rains.
Right.
And Matt had done it before. Matt had done Heaps before, and I had it, and Michelle hadn't. So yeah, you were saying to us ahead of time that it was going to be a full canyon, and it was going to be fun, and we were excited for that. I had to buy some extra neoprene because I didn't have exactly what I was going to need. I think we all had to plan a little bit extra because it was going to be really cold, and I'm glad that I did. It ended up being cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all had a minimum of 7 millimeters. I had a full centimeter on my core, and it was just about right.
Yeah, I had 9 millimeters in my core, and I, of course, I get cold easily, as women often do. And Michelle and I had some neoprene gloves that we had brought to put under our canyoning gloves, and I actually had cut off a neoprene beanie from another wetsuit and put it under my helmet, and I'm glad I did, because it was cold water.
Yeah. And then we got going, and everyone was happy, and we made it to the crossroads, and we'd gone down a couple hallways that were stunning, and not long after, there was a little, what could have been a rappel, and I'm pretty sure Raquel even asked for a rope. And
I probably thought about it.
Oh, yeah. And then I did a little slide down thinking, no big deal. I've done 1,000 of these little slide downs in my life. What Kenyoner has not? And it was into about 1.5 feet of water and soft sand. And I thought, oh, no big deal. Bend your knees. We'll be fine. And I went down and I was fine. And Michelle went down. It's fine. And then Raquel went down.
I went down and I tried to bend my knees. Pretty felt like I did. But on the way down, on my impact, I could feel, what happened to my right foot. And knew that I had sprained my ankle. I did utter many expletives, as I can sometimes do, in stressful situations, and just needed like a minute to assess what was going on, and so they gave me a minute. I knew it wasn't just going to go away immediately because it was still painful, but then I tried to bear some weight on it, and I knew that it was definitely a sprain that was going to be an issue the rest of the day, but was able to bear some weight on it. So it became a situation where, just had to continue on. I mean, choice to continue on. But I just bore weight on it where I could. Matt and Michelle took over my pack. I think Michelle took actually my pack, which was heavier than hers at the time. And I think we were flinging my pack around, Matt? I don't remember which. Their packs being flung. For sure.
You're correct. Michelle took your pack, and I mostly took her pack.
Okay.
And hers got flung a lot.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
we debated, after about 5 minutes, we debated hitting the helicopter button. And we decided it was better to keep moving, even if we went much slower and got out on our own. It would just be a lot safer. We'd stay warmer and get out on time, or at least safe enough time. And that's what we continued to do. We just kept moving along at, a third the pace. And it was challenging. There's a lot of log jams that take a lot of effort to get up and over. And when a person has to take extra packs, up and over these kinds of things, it becomes a lot harder. Luckily, we had the canyon in pretty easy mode. All the keepers were full.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we just kept moving, and it was going relatively well. We just had to come back and help Raquel over challenges where, the right foot is almost a necessity, so we could somehow make a left foot work where a right foot would normally be needed. That was hard. It wore on everybody. But we kept moving along, and in the last 500 feet, 700 feet of the canyon, it started raining on us. We got a little worried because it's already full. It could flow easily. Luckily that's where you kind of climb up and out, and a little bit further down, it kind of opens up a little towards the end. So it's not, I wasn't too worried. It just added another level of stress to an already fatigued group. We got up to the top, and we all started changing, dried out, and got going. And we got down to the bird's perch, and Raquel joined me, and I set out the 300-foot rope. I'd had it in a dry bag, so I tied one end and started letting out the other end, or letting it out from that end, bit by bit, foot by foot, and then it started going quicker and quicker. And I thought it'd come out clean. I've done this kind of thing, before and never had any problem. I didn't think anything of it. I finally got all ready to go, had my pack dangling, and I go down about 6 feet. You got that about 10 feet before it just goes free hang forever. And I look down, and there's the biggest knot I've ever seen in a rope, ever. I would say 250 feet of this rope is tangled up, and there's maybe 50 feet hanging. So I freaked out. I started pulling it up and look at it, and I know immediately I can't just do this locked off where I'm at. So I climbed back up the little crack up to the bird's perch, and we undo both ends and start working on it. And Raquel and I are 20 minutes, 30 minutes into it, and Michelle still hasn't come down for whatever reason. We've whistled back and forth with her, and she finally comes down maybe an hour after we've gotten this, 70% untangled. Michelle comes down, and the three of us working on it, we undo it relatively quickly. It took us probably an hour and a half all told with all three of us working on it to undo this thing.
Holy cow.
And it's getting dark because we were already delayed because of my ankle, so it's definitely sunset /
And there's wind blasting us because this system is coming through that had kind of rained on and off, and the stress load was really high. All three of us were pretty much at our breaking point. And it's now dark, and we've got 2 headlamps. I somehow forgot mine because I was in a massive rush from a previous canyon trip, and somehow my headlamp didn't make it into my pack, which was whatever. We have 2 headlamps working on this knot, and finally Michelle goes, and she takes quite a while because she's rappelling out of a bag, which takes a while to untwist everything as you're going along.
Yeah.
So she gets down, and finally we hear the whistles, and I'm incredibly relieved to know that she's safe, because we can't see anything. We can't look down and say, oh, Michelle's fine.
Right.
It's even hard to look down to see a light because we can't really look over the edge very well.
And yeah, and it was dark. I mean, dark. Like there was an almost full moon, but it was dark. Like you couldn't see
really
anything.
Came up. It wasn't really up yet. The moon wasn't. It was like not up enough to see anything. So it's pretty much pitch black. I finally got on rappel. I was the last person, and just really hoping I didn't tangle the pull cord or get it stuck from above or any of these things. And luckily, none of those things happened. There was no sticking of the pull cord, because any bit of that goes wrong, and the whole system's up there for the next person to have to deal with, which I really didn't want to have happen.
Right.
And finally get down, and it's pitch black, and we're doing 660 feet of rope and bagging it, and we finally get going, and we have to get across all that little boulder field, and that's really the last challenge for the ankle. It turned out that was actually kind of challenging. First, we all wanted to just be done. We're like, oh, we're done with this.
We're done with the canyon. We're fine.
Well, Michelle and I were cramping. Our hands were cramping. Like my forearms of both hands were just both cramping. While even rappelling, I was a little freaked out because I was just cramped up. All that work on the ropes all day long and pulling yourself up over the log jams and all these things like all day long. We probably didn't drink enough water. And there's all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're hiking out, and there's, we know right away there's no shuttles. They're long gone.
Yeah.
And then we finally get to the Zion Lodge. And this is a little bit of a fun part of the story. We walk in, and I'm just done. And
we're all done. We're hungry.
Right.
And our masks are all buried way into some dry bag, like where you don't have to want to dig in and take it all out. And I just walk in, and I'm looking for a mask because there's signs everywhere, wear a mask, So they don't have one. And I go up to the desk, but I'm still like a good 10 feet away from the guy. And he's freaking out about masks. And I'm like, okay, I'll go dig out my mask. I go back into my backpack and dig through all this wet gear and come back 10 minutes later. I'm like, can we get a ride? We've got an injured person. And he's like, no, we can't do this. And I'm like, what? He's like, well, if we let you guys in, well, next week you'll be coming back with the same thing.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, I love broken ankles.
Right.
It's obvious that there's a real injury.
Man.
A security guy comes in, and he's like, wait, why are we not giving these people a ride?
3 miles.
Well, I guess it's more like 7 all the way. But anyways, it's like finally the security guy says, we've got to make this happen. And he starts calling managers. And he calls one manager, and the desk guy says, no, that's the wrong manager. They're not acting manager. And the guy's like, come on. That manager said, sure. So then the security guy's like, okay, I'll call another manager. And the other manager says, sure, just let them have it. And this is like an hour and a half we're waiting for a ride. And we finally get back to our car at like 12:30 or almost 1 in the morning.
Yeah. And Matt had some like old sandwiches that he forgot to pack for that trip. He was like, dang it, I forgot the sandwiches. And so I don't know how many days old they were, and we just scarfed.
The best sandwiches ever.
And they're the best tasting sandwiches like ever. So good.
Oh man. Wow. It's funny
and
how
I think we went for Mexican food too. Like there was like one place open till like 1 in the morning, and then we just like down burritos too.
That's awesome that they had something in Springdale open that late.
It wasn't Springdale, was it?
Okay.
Where was it?
Oh, in Hurricane probably? Probably Alfredo's.
Yeah. Yes,
Nice.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
The drive-through. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They have great breakfast burritos.
So originally the plan was Matt was gonna drive us to St. George. We're gonna catch the shuttle from St. George to Vegas. We were gonna spend the night in Vegas and fly out. Because Matt was driving back to Boise, where we're from, and then Michelle and I were going to fly. I was going to fly back to Boise. Michelle was going to fly back to her home. And we didn't make that, so we got a hotel in Hurricane and changed the plan completely as we needed to, so we could sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what happened the next morning, Raquel?
You wake up and we're like, I got to drive back to Boise. We got to get up. And so we had to leave because Matt had to drive back, 12 hours or something?
But then moments after I dropped them off at the shuttle place.
Oh, yeah. So the shuttle, and I had to change my flight. It was going to be earlier in the morning from Vegas. I had to change it because of the delay. I was going to get to the airport with like an hour to spare. We're in the shuttle, and literally we've gone like maybe a mile, not even, and the shuttle gets in a fender bender.
Oh, no.
So we had to divert to a parking lot, wait for the police to come. We had to get another shuttle from the company. We had to unload the stuff, put it in the next shuttle, load back up, and I started bursting out laughing. I'm just like, this is just absurd. And of course it happened. And I got to the airport. I was calling the airline, trying to get a wheelchair assistance, and basically explaining I need to get to my gate. I was gonna barely make it. I would have half an hour before I arrived at the airport till my plane took off. And so I did get the wheelchair assistance. There was no security. I managed to get to the gate, and the flight was 15 minutes delayed. And it was the only time I was ever very grateful that a flight was delayed, because I did end up making my flight.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And then I got home to Boise, and my friends picked me up, and one insisted I go to the doctor. I thought, it's a sprain. I've had sprains before. I'm not going to go to the doctor. And she made me. And found out I was broken. Not sprained.
Wow. Was it so light hairline fracture, or?
It's a spiral fracture on my
Okay.
fibula, which I learned that the fibula is the best ankle bone you can break because it only bears 10% of your body weight.
Oh, nice.
So that was probably why it felt like a sprain and why it was able to bear some weight. And lucky for us that I was able to move enough
Right.
to, with assistance, get through the canyon and then over the boulder field and to the lodge and all of that. So, we were talking about this afterwards, of all the things that kind of went wrong, some side things, like Matt's camera he's had for forever throughout so many canyons died. So many little weird things that happened along the way, the fender bender, all this stuff that kind of went wrong, but a lot of it went right because we're all here and everyone's, relatively happy. We made it home. I made my flight. Broke the best ankle bone you can break. So you can look at it in a positive way too.
Sometimes that's all you can do, right?
Yeah.
I learned some interesting stuff about bagging rope as well. I was trying to save a little weight and just bring a dry bag, so I bagged the rope into a dry bag. But I chatted with Tom a little bit about this. And he says I probably should have bagged it into a regular rope bag, pulled the rope bag out of the dry bag, tied some amount up on top, and then toss the bag, which I probably should have done that, but I didn't really want to drop my dry bag and ruin the dry bag when I had that set that way.
Right.
So for days after this, I'd kind of contemplated how I could have done things better. I know Michelle says that it twisted because of the squirrel device, which, is probably somewhat true. There's definitely some validity to that. The squirrel definitely twists a rope, but I've used it. I've used a squirrel for years and love it, and not had anything like this ever before. I would have loved to have watched that rope go over the edge when I was letting it out, because the amount of tangling, I can't even describe. It was literally just a giant ball of knots, which I can't even comprehend how that would occur just from letting rope out. But
Yeah. I mean, like, you said it was windy. Would the wind have been able to cause that? It seems crazy.
I'm sure I got one or two loops immediately, and then what it did beyond that, I don't know. I would have loved to have seen it.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that I won't be doing it directly out of a dry bag from that same end ever again.
Yeah, that sounds pretty intense. You said an hour and a half total working on the knot itself. That's so
in the dark.
nuts. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
And luckily I didn't take one more step, because if I had taken one more step, I would have gone free hang and had to have done this myself.
Right.
I didn't bring I usually have my ascenders. I think Michelle maybe could have handed me down some ascenders, but I didn't bring them thinking, I'm going to save some weight. I usually bring them everywhere, but I just had so much gear given how few people we had compared to what we were expecting.
Right.
I was like, well, this is a few ounces I can save, which shouldn't have done that, but I'm not sure I could even fit it anyways. My backpack was jammed to the gills,
Mm-hmm.
But man, if I had taken that one more step, I would have been undoing that knot like all night long, free hanging.
I think you even contemplated, because you looked down right at that edge of the crack, and you were like, you saw it, so thank goodness you looked down, and you're almost for a second contemplating like fixing it down there as opposed to up here, and I think you decided, yeah.
I can't even imagine. Right. Wow.
At one point, like, we were working on the rope, and then Michelle was going down, and it was dark, and like the thought crossed my mind, like, do I need to spend the night at the bird's perch? It crossed my mind for a second. I was like, okay, well, it would suck, but.
Yeah, and your sleeping bag got wet.
And my sleeping bag got wet. So I came home, my dry bag had some rips in it. And I had taken it on previous trips where it was fine, so I'm not sure where the rips came from, but my sleeping bag got totally soaked. And before we took off our wetsuits, we were debating rappelling in our wetsuits for the final sequence or taking them off, and we decided to take them off, and winds were like going to be, I think, expected 20, 30, up to 40 miles per hour at that point in time. I took them off, and the clothes that I was going to wear were soaked. My sleeping bag was soaked. My jacket was soaked. My clothes from the previous day were just a little damp, but good enough for me to wear. So thank goodness that happened, because otherwise I would have been freezing. So, yeah.
Dry bag failures are horrible.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff in one trip. That's crazy.
Yeah, but
I'm so glad you guys are all here.
Like,
glad you're all here. Right?
Yeah. Let's look on the agenda to redo that trip.
For sure.
No broken bones.
I still haven't done Heaps. I've done Imlay 3 times, but I haven't done Heaps yet.
They're both great.
Yeah.
The Imlay is phenomenal. Heaps is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'd put Heaps above by like 1%.
That's what I've heard. Yeah. And lucky for you, you were able to swim through those potholes, and so that probably helped a lot.
And the cold water, I think, numbed my ankle too.
Right.
Like, I'm sure adrenaline had put into play, and just like the fact that there's no choice, right? Like, you just gotta go. So
gotta
just
do it.
But the cold water probably helped kind of numb things, and then we could swim over a lot and push the pack through, and so yeah, that definitely helped. For sure.
And we didn't have to resuscitate any dogs. Anybody read that? I don't know if you've read that article. It's absolutely hilarious about the dog that dies in Heaps and he has to resuscitate it. Like, Is this? Oh, you got anybody listening to this? Absolutely needs to go look up the Heaps dog story. It's one of the best reads you'll ever come across. This guy
Okay, so many things wrong with this story first. Oh my god.
I was like, Matt, we beat the dead dog story.
I'm gonna have to look those people up for sure. Holy cow. Okay, Heaps dog story. Holy shit.
It's probably the funniest canyoneering story I've ever read, and all the canyoneering stuff I've ever read through. It's phenomenal.
I'm gonna totally look that up after this. Okay, I'll probably put a link to it on the website. That'll be funny. Huh. Wow. Huh.
Right?
Why would you bring... What kind of dog was it? I'm so intrigued.
I forget exactly. It's like a little chihuahua or something. Some little dog you put in a dry bag. The guy literally starts putting this dog in a dry bag. It leaves it in the dry bag too long, it like dies, and he pulls it out and he has to or something starts blowing on its mouth. And he's like, bring it back to life.
Shit.
And it comes back to life, but...
Oh, good.
Oh, man. Great.
Oh, shit. Okay, I have to look that up. Alright, moving on. So, aside from rope management, what did you guys learn through your Heaps epic?
Don't break ankles.
That too.
Yeah. I mean, the people you go with are important. Like Matt and Michelle were awesome and helped me get through, and that's super important.
So when you said that you hurt your ankle initially, you were doing a slide down. Did you have?
Well, it was like a jump slide into shallow water, but the sand was soft, and we had done some jumps where the sand was really soft before without an issue.
Did you have your pack on?
I think so.
I probably did, yeah.
It wasn't very big. It was maybe 5 feet.
And
looking back at it, I thought, okay, what would I have done differently? What would I change this in the future? And I'm not sure that I would, because it's something I've done 1,000 times. And I don't know how I would have predicted this given time just cause such an incident. What didn't stand out in my mind at all as overly challenging, but anybody can have a strange land,
Right. I do it a lot.
Yeah.
I actually just invested in high top shoes for when I carry a heavy pack because I twist my ankle all the time. And I think that helps a little bit, but I honestly hate high top shoes, but it might help.
Yeah, and I considered before, because I had my shoes were not high top shoes, and I think I told you before that we started recording, I sprained another ankle, not canyoneering, but the previous year. So maybe high tops are in my future, or ankle support or something. I don't know. Maybe I just have wonky ankles, but I mean, it's true. Like, people sprain their ankles.
Yeah. I wore them into the Grand Canyon this weekend when I did the rim to rim and with a heavy pack on, and I was really happy that I had them. So.
Yeah, I might be taking those in the future.
I like the ultra long peaks because they're lightweight, but still really supportive. Oh. Anyway.
Yeah.
So a few questions that I like to ask everyone at the end of the podcast. What are the most essential pieces of gear that you like to carry with you all the time?
I thought about that a little bit before, and something that makes it into almost every canyon, because, various canyons bring different kind of gear. I think the only thing I really bring other than like a harness and rope is maybe like this Gerber knife that I love to use. It goes onto my carabiner. I can put a finger through it and saw on things. It's small and light. And I've got this Phoenix headlamp that I almost always bring, except for in Heaps. That headlamp is waterproof, rechargeable, and goes for days without recharging it. I absolutely love this thing. I just love that it's so light, rechargeable, and waterproof. Those are my two go-tos for just almost every single canyon. Those things.
Awesome.
I'm gonna say one thing that I think was helpful on this trip, just for even like repairs, and it was easy to bring. And Matt had the idea of actually wrapping around some of our water bottles is like the Gorilla Tape. I didn't use it like obviously my ankle, but just like we used it like to patch up some wetsuits beforehand the night before. That was just light and easy to take, and then probably like the InReach that I had bought for a previous trip where we were remote, even though like it wouldn't have necessarily like helped us in this situation unless it was like really extreme, and it's not going to help you necessarily in every situation, but just for communication maybe might have been helpful, or could be helpful in future situations. Just an extra line of communication to that outside when you're that remote. It's just like a
For sure.
peace of mind kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I started carrying that with me when I hike locally. Just why not? And bring it in the canyon. It's light.
Yeah, that's awesome. Those are definitely very important. Canyoneering makes me really hungry. What is your favorite in-canyon snack?
I almost always bring some sort of like a sandwich. I've been bringing the almond butter and honey sandwiches of late. I get kind of tired of little bars and anything in a wrapper. But those are the easy go-tos that everyone seems to have. But I just kind of gotten tired of anything in a wrapper.
And like bars like that are sweet can get annoying after a while, but they have these chicken sriracha bars. I think like Epic makes them, and like some like meat. Like, I don't eat like pork or beef, but I eat like poultry, and they have like these turkey jerkies, or so like a little non-sweet snack. I appreciate for sure. If I can carry those with me, I will.
Yeah. So I can tell you, we went to Phantom Ranch and bought some potato chips, and they were the most delicious potato chips, just because we didn't have enough. Like, we had some salt, but not like enough. And I don't know, we had a bunch of sweet stuff. So we're looking at our snacks and we're like, no, just want.
Like the sweet's good for like bursts of energy, but you get sick of it after a while. Like just want something a little savory, salty. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that sounds delicious. Cool. Okay, how about after the canyon? What is your favorite after canyon beverage?
Well, doesn't everyone say a beer?
I'm finding not everyone, which is weird because that's what I thought. But but some people like Diet Coke.
Beer things I go to, but after like a strenuous day, I want a beer. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Nice hobby beer.
Mm-hmm.
I usually like a good stout, but after a canyon, I find I like it a little bit more like a lager, maybe.
I'm always an IPA fan.
Yeah, me too. I'll do better. I only need one, and I'm good.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
Oh,
so
Cascada El Choyadero. I'm not even sure I'm saying it right. That's this cave in southern Mexico that's something like 3 kilometers or something like that long. It's got 42 rappels, and 20 of them are jumpers, which means it's got 22 rappels. And it just looks phenomenal. I've never been there, but the pictures that come out of there just blow my mind, and that's way up on there on my to-do list.
That sounds incredible.
And it's just so hard for me to pick, because like there's nowhere in the world I would not go, like literally. Like I want to go everywhere. So maybe I would start like with France and Spain, because also there's like the food and the culture and all that. I'll just spend a bunch of time there. But honestly, like there's nowhere I don't want to go. Like I want to go everywhere. So it's too hard.
Yeah. That's kind of why I asked this question, because then I find out about like more places that I want to go. The list just keeps getting longer. It's great. Do you have any safety advice you want to tell our listeners before we say goodbye?
There's a lot to that one. That's a loaded one. I know that you were good friends with Lewis as well. He was a good friend of mine as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I spent a long time thinking about things after that incident. I almost quit canyoneering after that. That was rough. Anyway, sorry.
No, yeah, it that definitely changed the way I set my anchors when I can't see the bottom.
Yep.
They're the ones that taught me the figure eight contingency block, and then didn't use it that day. And so now I'm like, if I can't see the bottom, we have a contingency for sure.
Set it long.
Yeah.
Set that rope long. Yeah. It's always easier to pull up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well said. How about you, Raquel?
I mean, I'm just gonna say again, like, go with people, good people. Like, I trust Matt and Michelle, like, completely. I would say knowing who you're going with and trusting them is important. And then just from, like, a gear standpoint, like, I'm glad I knew how cold it was going to be there ahead of time and just had enough neoprene, because hypothermia would have been a real issue in Heaps for sure if you didn't have enough to cover you. So just knowing what you need, no matter where you go, no matter what the activity, is important.
I'm glad you brought that up. The first time I did Imlay, I didn't have enough neo, and my friend could tell that I was like slurring my words and starting to stutter a little bit. And they were like, we need to get you into the light. They gave me their neo hat and I think a rain jacket, and had me starting to just get my blood going and some sugar. And then when I took my woofer, I was like, I was getting hypothermic. But the next time I did it,
like, when we were moving, we were fine.
Yeah.
Or at least I was. When we kind of stopped to eat something, like, it was cold. Like, even just not moving your body, you know, even though you had all that when you'd be fine, when you're moving is, you know.
Yeah.
It's real. So.
The next time I did it with Lewis and Everett and my friend Cameron. And I rented a dry suit from Zach and had so many layers. I was just like so cozy in the water. It was great. So yeah, definitely over prepare when it comes to that. For sure.
The dry suit thing kind of makes me a little worried. I know that they're warmer when they work.
Right.
But you always hear stories of people ripping one and all of a sudden they've got a real problem on their hands. So
yeah,
I'm kind of torn on that use a dry suit or not.
Right.
I generally think, for me personally, in canyons like Imlay or Heaps where there's a lot of like log jams or things to tear a suit on, that kind of freaks me out. I'd rather just push through a bunch of neoprene than worry about tearing a dry suit.
That is a good point. And I did put like a janitor layer over the dry suit. So if there were any snags, and I think Zion Adventure Company made you do that when you rented their dry suit. But since then, I've invested in a heavier wetsuit for myself because, like I get cold. So yeah. So now I have a lot of thick neoprene. But yeah, I also don't really trust dry suits. Like if a neoprene that gets a hole in it, it's still gonna work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Good points. All right. Well, if anyone wants to reach out to you guys, how would they get a hold of you? Do you want them to? I don't know.
I don't know. Message me on Facebook, I guess.
Yeah, on Facebook and Instagram.
Cool.
That's probably the easiest way.
All right. I'll have links to those in the show notes as well. All right. Unless you have anything else to say, I think the canyons are calling. Probably.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's fun to relive it.
Yeah.
A month later. Hopefully this will heal fast and get back at it, because kind of going antsy up here.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're doing okay. After a month, you're about 70%.
Yeah, I feel 70%.
Seems like the upward spiral.
I mean, like, Idaho is just so much to year round, and I gotta get out there and do stuff. Right. So
it'd be hard.
Gotta heal up a little bit more first.
Yeah. Good luck. Okay, wow, what a crazy story. I think I will definitely pay more attention to rope management when I'm on big, long free hanging rappels, especially, and also pay more attention to down climbing and the way I land on my ankles. Poor Raquel. I can't imagine that long of a trip. I twisted an ankle and had to walk just a little ways, and that was horrible. I mean, just like a couple miles, but to finish that complete canyon and have to walk all the way to Zion Lodge, kudos to her. Anywho, I postponed this podcast long enough that yesterday she met with her doctors, and she's doing really well in healing. They say that she has one more month before she can get back to skiing, but she's cleared to do all things that she loves. She just needs to slowly build up to that. So that is awesome news on Raquel's recovery situation. And also going back to the intro when I was talking about Kevin Clark's Canyoning in the Pacific Northwest, a technical resource book, you can not only find that at the Canyoneering USA website where I work. If you're in Portland, you can find it at Norhex and at Valhalla Pure in Squamish, BC. Other than that, he has it available on Amazon, so you can also find it there. One more thing I wanted to add about the Patreon supporters. I am going to give the Patreon supporters little heads up about my upcoming interviews and give them the opportunity to ask questions if they want to, or and things like that. So if you want to be able to ask my guests questions, that's another way, another benefit of the Patreon. I know some podcasts give you early access to shows or give you extra episodes, and I'm not really technically able to do that because this is all just a learning curve for me. I might get better at it at some point. I am going to post more content specific to canyoneering on the Patreon page, as well as give you a heads up on who I'm interviewing and let you ask questions. And then also the monthly canyon calls, which should be really fun. We're going to sometimes talk about specific knots, specific gear. I'll have guest speakers on from time to time. Tom has agreed to come on to answer questions once in a while. So I look forward to those. It'll be really fun. Just another way that you can help support this show. It does take a little bit of time, and it's taken some equipment. So anyway, if you feel like it's valuable, also check out my website, thecanyonsarecrawling.com. There you can get the beer glasses, stickers, and the dog tug toys coming soon. Anyway, enough of this. The canyons are crawling. Let's go.